they are trying to stop inflation, but what they're really doing is it's a war against you. I was playing some clips from Senator Elizabeth Warren, somebody who I never agree with, and I couldn't believe that she said the quiet part out loud. But she basically said that the inflation is being caused by something that you do not, the Fed does not have the tools to fix. So I agree with that. Let's listen to this next clip here. We'll talk about that.
According to the Fed's own report, if you continue raising interest rates as you plan, unemployment will be 4.6% by the end of the year, more than a full point higher than it is today. Chair Powell, if you hit your projections, do you know how many people who are currently working, going about their lives, will lose their jobs?
I don't have that number in front of me. I will say it's not
just
an
a math
intended
problem.
consequence.
But it is, and it's in your report, and that would be about 2 million people who would lose their jobs. People who are working right now, making their mortgages.
So he said that's not an intended consequence. She says, well, it is. It's in your report. So there's a report that came out from the Fed basically talking about how they're trying to engineer a recession. And it talks about historically what happens. And it talks about every time they raise rates, what that does to the unemployment rate. And so she's saying that if they continue on this path, we have unemployment rate is too low. You having a job, let me explain this to you. You having a job and you getting paid more to do your job to keep up with inflation is a problem for the Fed. The Fed wants 2 million people to lose their jobs. 2 million. She went on to say, what do you want to say to them? What do you want to say to those 2 million people? Sorry, you just have to lose your job. That's just the way it is. Let's listen to this next clip here.
There have been 12 times in which the unemployment rate has increased by 1 percentage point within 1 year, exactly what you're aiming to do right now. How many of those times did the U.S. economy avoid falling into a recession?
You know, it's not as black and white as very
Just
very
looking
infrequent.
at the numbers, it actually is pretty black
Alan
and white.
Blinder's written a book on this.
There have been 12 times that we've seen a 1 point increase in the unemployment rate in a year. That's exactly what your Fed report has put out as the projection and the plan based on how you're going to keep raising these interest rates. How many times did the economy fail to fall into a recession after doing that? Out of 12 times.
I think the number is 0.
I think the number is 0. That's exactly right.
So what happens if we go down this path? For them to have any movement, they need 2 million people to lose their jobs. They need you to be paid less wages than you're being paid now. And of the last 12 times that unemployment has gone up by 1%, it's gone into a recession. They're not saying that, but I've been saying it for a year. Senator Elizabeth Warren is finally getting it. Are you getting it? Of course, my high horse that I'm going to rant on is end the Fed. Ron Paul really kind of got me radicalized with his campaign to end the Fed. It's really what brought my attention to this. And to think of the insanity of this world that we're in, where we have an unelected group of people who are controlling the money, whose goal it is to create a recession and for 2 million people to lose their jobs. Now, do those 2 million people have mortgages and car payments? What happens to their life? What happens to their credit? What happens to their kids? Oh, I guess they would just, I don't know. I guess it's just an inconsequential thing that just has to happen. 12 out of 12 times. This is where we're going. I have another clip here, last one I want to play for you. Senator Kennedy, and he nails this one. He really goes in to show you exactly how bad this can get. Let's listen to this clip.
You're trying to achieve disinflation, are you not?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Based on history, in the 10 times that we got inflation down, disinflation since the 1950s, in order to reduce inflation by 2%, unemployment had to go up 3.6%. Now, that's history, is it not?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but yes, the standard has been that there have been recessions and downturns when the
Okay.
Fed has tried to reduce inflation.
Now, right now, the current inflation rate's 6.4%, and the current unemployment rate's 3.4%. Now, if history is right, I'm not asking you to again, blame anybody, but if history is right, unless you get some help, in order to get inflation down from 6.4% to, let's say, 4.4%, and the unemployment rate's going to have to rise to 7% based on history.
That's what the record would say.
Okay, and to get inflation down to 2.2%, based on history, an immutable fact, unemployment would have to go to 10.6%. Would it not?
No, I wouldn't.
That's what the record shows. That's what the history shows.
Yeah,
This is where we're going. The Fed hates you. Let me just say that again. The Fed hates you. Their goal is to make 10 million people unemployed, ruin their credit, get rid of their jobs, destroy their kids' future. That's their goal. It's their goal. It's the only way. If they want to get inflation down to 2.2%, history shows unemployment will have to go from 3.5% to 10.6%. Millions and millions and millions of people's lives will be destroyed. Why? Let me ask you why. Now, why do we have this inflation? Well, if we go back to the Austrian school definition of what inflation is an increase in the money supply. This is super simple. These economists try to make it super difficult. It's actually very simple. If you have more money chasing the same amount of goods, prices go up. If there's one house for sale and there's 10 people trying to buy that house, the price of the house goes up. So when you increase the money, you have more money, more buyers chasing the same amount of goods, prices go up. Inflation is not, they've changed the definition. Inflation is not prices going up. Prices going up is prices going up. Inflation is when you inflate. When you inflate like a balloon, you inflate the balloon, you increase the amount of air in a balloon. Inflation is when you increase the amount of money in the system. So when the Fed prints money, the Fed and the government prints money in the pandemic, almost $11 trillion was pumped in. They inflated the money supply. The inflation of the money supply causes prices to go back up. Now they're trying to fight the inflation they caused. And in order to do that, they have to destroy millions and millions and millions of people's lives and their kids' lives and their credit. Now, of course, when all that happens and the cars get repoed and the car companies don't do good and then they don't buy homes and then all those builders don't have jobs and they don't shop at your stores, it affects everybody. This is the entire economy. Unemployment at 10% is unimaginable. That puts us at Great Depression levels. Now, he goes on to say, Senator Kinney goes on to say, we need to have a reduction in the money supply, both monetary, which is what the Fed controls, and the fiscal side, which means the government needs to stop spending so much money. Both of those are inflationary. Both the Fed and the Treasury have to stop spending money. Stop with the money in Ukraine. Stop with the omnibus bill spending. Stop with the Inflation Reduction Act. All of those things are what's causing the price to go up. So while the Fed is trying to make you poorer, they're actively still spending money, which is still causing the problem. And as Senator Warren said, you're trying to crush demand, but it's not a demand problem, and so it's not a war they can even win.